So I think the biggest, I guess, shift for me is I was trying to find a way to separate myself from the entire industry. I'm in the sports training, young adult, empowering young kids to find an identity beyond sports is really kind of, I guess, to sum it all up, the market that I'm in. And I needed some kind of way to stand out. And for me, a lot of people in the industry, which, as I'm assuming whatever industry you're in, there's a lot of people screaming kind of the same thing. And for me, people were saying that they wanted to build better young men and women and create this identity beyond sports. But there was nothing to really back it up, right? Like there was no kind of evidence. It's like now I preach. I'm like, the first question you should ask anybody before you sign your kids up is like, how are they investing back into your child? And so this was the kind of the game changer, the big decision that led to a kind of a snowball effect of, being able to find different ideas and things to implement to really know what these kids were going through, the right questions to ask kids, the right questions to ask parents. So it gave us a completely new insight on what to ask them and then to understand what their needs were better. Pre-course story is I thought we knew who like the ideal client was. I thought we knew who to target. And as we developed and went through the entire core story process it gave a little bit of insight. It helped me, but I had all this information, and to be completely honest is I didn't really know how to use it. I didn't know exactly what to say or how to implement it or where to put it, or, I kind of thought that I was doing the right thing and, being able to include this in whether it was my marketing or whether it was sales or conversations with kids and parents. What I've come to learn is through the business growth intensive is really how to understand how to implement this. I've mentioned before that I thought I was using the core story at, I would say I thought probably 50%. And once I got into business growth intensive it was really this eye-opening experience of is probably like 1 to 2% is really the implementation that I was using with it. Now it's been a complete shift once I understood what type of information I had. The immediate shift that I have is I was literally targeting the wrong people. In my industry is I was trying to target kids when the reality is parents had a lot of pain points that they needed to solve. Parents had a lot of honestly just not being heard or understood in how to deal with and ask certain questions or what their kids were going through. So it was how to educate these parents on like, a lot of parents want to believe it's like, hey, this is not my child. And then when you sit them down and you're like, look at all this information. Look at what's going on in your kids' schools. Look at what's going on in the academic side. It was eye-opening for them. And it was like, is this true? And kids could kind of back that up. So, I've been able to go from 1% maybe on the good side to really understanding and shifting and immediately implementing probably 70+% in my marketing, in my messaging more than anything, and actually who to target and understanding what their pain points were. Once we really dove into the core story, we understood that there was more pain points on the emotional and the mental health and what these kids were going through. And so when we could, as you said, meet them at their needs and start talking about things like confidence, start talking to things about like self-identity and self-worth, and understanding, using examples from the core story or data of like, here's bullying that's going on. Here are statistics of, I remember one being that 8% of high school students have attempted suicide. You know, there was these eye-opening, and it's like, okay, there's 10 kids in the room. Basically, one has thought about taking their life. Like, those are scary things. And so we were able to, again, like you said, that was on the kids' side, and then bridge that gap with the parents and help them understand that, you know, the kids were craving more than just physical training. I know that as a parent, you want your child to be the best athlete possible, but there was a different need. And then the core story helped bridge that gap between coach, mentor, kid, and parent as well. Once we implemented this, the first year, it ranged a revenue growth from anywhere from about 30% per month growth all the way up to 96% growth per month. So anywhere from 30 to almost 100% growth. And after BGI, it was about 5 or 6 months later when we truly kind of like got everything going. Throughout that year, that was our highest grossing year in the history of the company, and really been able to withstand that and continue to grow anywhere from about 20 to 30% top line revenue per year. Understanding who the makers are, you know, it seems kind of like, duh, you know, throughout like, but at that time we didn't understand that. We thought that like, okay, we're in the business of empowering and helping kids. So it just seems like logical to like, okay, let's get in front of the kids. Once we understood like who the decision makers are, how do we bridge that gap between the decision makers and who the service was being provided for? I mean, it was game changing. Obviously, you know, increasing revenue reduces some stress in and of itself. Absolutely. But it was, it took all the guesswork out of it. It just made it it was like this light went off, and it just made it very clear on where to shift the focus in the direction of our business. You know, I'm very, I guess, kind of goal oriented, and I need to understand, me personally, is I'm kind of the captain of the ship, right? Like, I want to know where this ship is headed. And for years we were kind of guessing. And so that obviously, as a business owner, caused stress because you don't know. It's like you think you're doing the right thing, but you keep turning the ship in different directions and things aren't working. And so, you know, you're not sleeping at night because you don't know what's going to happen next day, next month. Obviously stress and anxiety. And once I understood and had a clear-cut direction, is for me personally, obviously, I'm a big relationship person, just people within my life. Those things mean a lot. You know, my relationships with friends and family, even employees in business, I have a business partner, came to a better understanding. So that caused or that relieved a lot of stress and anxiety in and of itself. And then some things that for me that really opened up in my own life is, actually, we really want to like peel back the layers, is my first core story presentation. I met and blew the socks off my now fiance. So that was, and then that led to opening up a lot of opportunities for speaking engagements, which has helped me, again, that whole idea of empowerment and getting in front of kids and parents. So it's poured into a revenue stream that I didn't even see coming. But more importantly, for my personal life, is that's like a huge fulfilling passion of mine. I enjoy being in front of them and educating them and just putting my personality, because I feel like a lot of people, they just need a big brother. And that's what, you know, it's helped me come to understand. And so there's a lot more fulfillment, a lot less stress, a lot more money, a lot more excitement. I'm sleeping better. And then my relationships have totally exploded. I got this wild, spontaneous idea. And this is through, after BGI, going through practical quantum physics, another course, and understanding the ability that I had to create my own life. right? Like the ability that we all have. And step one was obviously relieving a lot of that stress and anxiety with me personally, within my business. And then understanding it's like, okay, now that you're relaxed, like what are some wild things that you want to do? So when we got engaged, little less than a year ago, is the spontaneous idea of renting a private island in Belize for 4 days. And it was the most amazing, magical experience that I've experienced so far. I mean, we literally had an entire island to ourselves. We had a private chef. We were able to just go fishing and snorkeling and kayaking literally out in the middle of the ocean. I never thought I'd be the person to just put on a snorkel and just dive with wild sharks and fish and everything else. But I didn't even think twice about it. And so that has been a wonderful experience, and look forward to continuing to create even wilder ones from here on out. I was kind of a high stress person. And so risks caused like a lot of anxiety for in my life. And once I was able to really tone that down is I was able to see other opportunities, whether it was my speaking gigs or now we're expanding from Alabama out into Texas. And I mean, it's like everything out here just seems like wild opportunities. It's people I've talked to are like, oh, you're in like the perfect time, the perfect market, the perfect place, the perfect area. So again, it's kind of goes back to that creating, your own life. And so, yeah, it's opened up opportunities that I didn't know when would happen. And as I took a step back, they just kind of unfolded for me. There was things inside of me that I was lacking. That was like from beliefs to what was possible. I was holding myself back more than anything. I understood that I could make this through the core story, through BGI. I understood that I could grow my business, but that's like kind of where it ended to a certain degree. It was like, okay, this is cool. This is fun. I'm growing, but I had no clear directions. Like how much do I want to go? Do I want to rent an island in Belize? Do I want to go from making $10K a month to $100K a month to $1 million a month? Like, I didn't have any ideas of. I was putting limitations on myself. I think Deberah had put it is I was basically putting the ceiling on my life on what was possible, both from a business standpoint to my personal life, whether it's renting an island or creating a relationship with my now fiance, to seeing opportunities for expansion out into a completely new state, a new market, a new area. I think for a lot of people that would cause hesitation is probably a good way to put it. But I've been able to make this shift in my own mind of, okay, listen to more of my inner being. What is it telling me? And now I can use that to guide me more towards my head. I guess the difference between kind of my head and my heart. The biggest shift is I went from hunting to just allowing. Like there was this, if I wanted to, prior to quantum physics and those teachings, is if I wanted to create a new location or a new business in a new market, is like I would have like hunted it down, like forced it, like, yes, this is the best decision. And like, I guess forced those decisions versus just taking a step back, literally listening to more of source, my inner being. What is my gut? What is my heart telling me versus trying to do things all on my own. Yeah. That's actually a really cool story. Is I really wanted to do a TED Talk for multiple reasons. And I just felt like I had this cool message and this cool story to share with a group. And so I literally sat down one day. I was like, I'm going to apply to every TED Talk, and like nothing came back. Like Nobody would respond. Nobody would even email me back. I reached out to a couple of them and they were like, yeah, you should have gotten an email that, you weren't selected. Like, I wasn't even getting the emails that I wasn't selected. Like, that's how much that I was obsessing over how bad I wanted to do this TED Talk. And I specifically remember sitting in my office, and I would say probably a day, maybe 2 days max before, I completely just let it go. I completely just said, you know what, like, whatever's to happen is to happen. Like, in a conversation with you, it was like, maybe now's not the right time. Maybe it's 6 months from now, or just relax, stop obsessing over it, and it will show up when source is ready for it to present it to you in your life. So I'm sitting in the office and having a conversation with my business partner, and literally my phone goes off and I get an email from TEDx in Dallas of, hey, like, we were curious, like, did you get our email that we want you to come in and like audition for this spot, and on and on and on and on. And like, we never heard back from you. And so we just want to make sure. And I had never gotten the email, like, it never came through. And so I was like, oh my goodness, like, no, but yes, I would love to absolutely like audition and, potentially like, be a speaker at your TED event. And actually that was the same time as letting go of when I made the decision for the private island as well, because I remember I was like, I'm literally leaving the country tomorrow. Cause she was like, can you do it tomorrow? And I was like, I'm leaving the country. So they ended up letting me a week later come in, audition for it. I would say within like 3 days, they asked me to be a speaker on stage for the event. So it was super cool. But yeah, I think the big takeaway from that is I always have to revert to is like, stop obsessing over things. Just let them go. Source, your inner being will put it in your life at the right time, the right moment, and in the best way possible. Understanding your clients. I think it gives you a much deeper understanding. I think we all think we understand at a very conceptual level. And then once you get back your foundation documents, and I had the presentation created, and, it really like made it flow together, is, it enabled me to have easier conversations with my ideal client that nobody else was having. Like, nobody else I know for a fact was having those for me, parents, those conversations with parents in their office, because they didn't know any of this stuff. Like, they didn't have their hands on it. They couldn't support if somebody came in and said, how are you X, Y, and Z? And it's like, they wouldn't know the answer because they didn't have the data. They didn't truly understand what the pain points and what their ideal clients were after. So if you're a CEO, like, this is for understanding ideal clients and sales processes, is the number one tool that we've used. Hands down, it's given us a leg up because it shows that we are invested in our ideal client like nobody else. Implementation. You can have all this knowledge, but if you don't know what to do with it, it's kind of a moot point, right? Like, you can have all this data, but if you don't know how to share it to your ideal client, or for me, I was talking to the wrong ideal client. So it really helped me understand implementation. And that is what helped shift from a revenue stream to different types of revenue streams. But yeah, like, if you have it all and you don't know how to use it, what good is it doing? So helping me understand the messages to use and which message to use with which ideal client. You're probably living smaller than you think. Like I said, it helped me understand the ceilings that I was putting on in my professional life, the ceiling that I was putting on in my personal life, the ceilings that I was putting on in the dreams and the experiences that I wanted to create. It took it from here to shifting it up here to now. Like, now I wonder, like like nothing's not possible. It's just understanding and understanding my emotions and my feelings and my beliefs and my thoughts. And once I can align all those, anything's possible, whether it's a business goal, whether it's a personal goal, whether it's renting a private island. One thing that I put down is the combination, especially with BGI and the core story. One of the things that we were able to do, honestly, probably with quantum physics too, we were able to do with those is confidently more than double our prices. And it gave us a different, we kept our original prices as an option, but we made another option. So we increased our value. Like we had another option up our value ladder that people, like as soon as we put it out there, no paid advertising, no anything. We just went to our current clients and said, hey, this is what we're going to offer. Here's the new scenario and here's how much it's going to be. And the initial, we pitched it to 15 people. We had a little mini event at the gym. We had 15 families come in, and that night 5 signed up. So like about 30% immediately moved up the value ladder from doubling our prices.